Today's gospel comes from a series of many signs and miracles that Jesus had already performed. By this point in Mark's gospel, which is today's gospel, Jesus has already fed the 5,000. He has multiplied the bread. He has exorcised a demon. He has been transfigured at the top of a mountain before some disciples. He has healed some people, cured some people, and so on. Suffice it to say that by this point in Mark's gospel, Jesus was starting to create some noise in every town he visited. He was starting to gain a massive following. He was gathering the crowds. He was becoming very popular. However, the point of him journeying through so many towns and cities was not to perform miracles only. In fact, today's gospel and in scriptures in general tell us that the reason for him to perform so many signs and miracles is so that we may come to believe in him. In other words, him performing miracles is for us to believe his word. And in today's gospel, he tells us that performing miracles is so that we may come to know his teaching. His teaching today's preaching, reveals to his disciples what we call the Paschal mystery. The Paschal mystery refers to Jesus' master plan to save humanity from sin. The Paschal mystery refers to Jesus' passion, death, resurrection, and ascension into heaven. And as Jesus keeps journeying with his disciples, he reveals this master plan to save humanity. He reveals that he will suffer, he will die, he will resurrect, and he will ascend into heaven, all for the sake of saving us from sin. This is what Jesus was teaching on the way to the next town. I can imagine the disciples nodding their head as he's teaching in agreement, but not fully understanding a word that he was teaching. And in fact, that's exactly what the gospel tells us today. They say that they did not understand the saying. In today's gospel, Jesus notices that they did not fully understand. Not only that, but Jesus noticed that they were talking, and they were talking about something else. So he asked, "What were you talking along the way?" And we read that they replied with silence. No one dared to say, because they were discussing amongst themselves who is the greatest, who is the best. Remember, Jesus, by this point in the gospel, had already gained a massive crowd. He was becoming very popular. So it makes sense that the disciples will be discussing among themselves, who is the best? Who is the greatest? But Jesus quickly corrects them and corrects any wrong perception of what it means to be a Christ follower, what it means to be his follower. And he tells us his definition of who the greatest is. He tells them that the greatest is the one who becomes a servant to others, the one who is last. The greatest is not the one who is served, but the one who serves. The greatest is someone who becomes like a child, like in that age when they want to help in everything they can. But sometimes they don't even know how to help. They just want to help. He wants us to become like that child who wants to help, serving others, even if we don't fully know how to yet. He wants us to become servants. This, my dear family, this is what is called basin theology. What on earth is basin theology? It is the theology of becoming servants. What it means to be great in the Catholic Church or in Christianity, it means to be a servant. Basin theology bases itself on looking at a basin filled with water and how two different people come to two different conclusions by looking at that basin filled with water. Jesus sees a basin filled with water, and he sees an opportunity to serve his disciples by washing their feet, because they had had a long day of walking and journeying. On the other hand, we have Pontius Pilate. He sees a basin filled with water, and he sees an opportunity to wash his hands from any responsibility. Basin theology calls us to look at the basin filled with water and serve the needs that we encounter. Not to just use that basin to wash our hands out of any responsibility. Hence, who is the greatest? The one who washes the feet of the disciples. The one who serves, the one who becomes last, the one who becomes the lowest. Wishing to help anyone and everyone, even if we don't know how to yet. Are we those types of servants? What do we see when someone is experiencing need in their life? Do we see an opportunity to help them? Or do we see an opportunity to wash our hands out of any responsibility so that the next person can take care of it?